You're listening to the TopCast, the original podcast for growth-minded instrumental music and voice teachers since 2015, with your host, Tim Topham. Our mission at Top Music is to empower instrumental music and voice teachers to find and nurture their innate creativity so that they can teach lessons that are innovative, integrated, and inspiring, and that will have a positive lifelong impact on their students. Join us each week as we interview teachers and creators from around the world and unpack fun and exciting ideas to maximize your teaching and studio business success. Hey teachers, it's Tim Topham here and welcome back to the TopCast. It's great to have you with us. Thanks very much for joining me. And today's episode is going to be really valuable for you if at any time you have thought about whether group teaching might be a good fit for you and your students. So we're going to be talking to the one and only Marie Lee, who you'll find out as we start the interview has been on the show a few times already. And she just gives away so much value in this episode. I've just recorded the interview with her. And so I was buzzing from it and I'm like, all right, I'm going to record the intro so that we can get this out as soon as possible. What you're going to hear in today's episode is a lot of ideas for group teaching structures, which are really important because just having 4 kids in a room or 8 students they're not the only options. There are lots of different options for how you go about structuring your group lessons, how to convert, whether you should convert or start fresh, what kinds of things to say to parents. We've got a fantastic freebie to give away as well. We're also going to hear about how Marie runs her classes. She has 8 in a class and she's been doing that for many years. How many classes does she have? How does she run them? We're going to find that out as well. And we're also going to be unpacking a tiny little bit about her group teaching conference, which is coming up. It's called Group Illuminated, and I'll be sharing a coupon code with you for $50 off tickets if you would like to grab that. It's an online, on-demand conference with live sessions. I'm going to be at some of the live sessions. I can't wait to join in and learn lots from all the guest presenters she's got. She's got an incredible lineup for this conference, by the way. GroupIlluminated.com if you want to check it out. She also gives away which state in the USA she reckons you should move to if you want no end of student inquiries and potential students for your groups too. I also want to share with you after the interview some of the courses that we have inside Top Music Pro. We've been talking about group teaching on the podcast, on the blog, and inside Top Music Pro for, about 6 years, maybe 7 years. And we've got a number of amazing courses, resources, and even classroom teaching demonstration videos of group classes in action inside Top Music Pro. So once we come back from the interview, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. My guest today is the creator of the popular group teaching blueprint and owner of Musicality Schools in Las Vegas. Marie leverages group teaching methods to motivate and inspire musicians both in her own group studio of 140 students and in the studios of those teachers she mentors. Her strengths are reaching students of all learning styles in a variety of ways that are easy to implement for any studio. Presenter at MTNA, NCKP, Music Ed Connect, 88 Creative Keys, and Nevada Music Teachers Conferences, she's a blog, guest post writer, and podcast presenter. She's also the president of the Nevada Music Teachers Association and co-producer of the Group Illuminated online conference. Welcome back to the show, Marie Lee. It's so cool to see you again.
Hey, great to see you, Tim. 3rd episode. I can't remember. 3rd podcast, I think you said. Yeah.
This is the 3rd time. So you were on episode number 37, which is kind of crazy, which was April 2016. Now, in that, you were talking about your experience inside Top Music Pro, which was called the Inner Circle back then. And that was super early days. We'd only been going for about a month or 2 back then. So that's crazy. And then you came back in episode 294 with Melanie and Dorla to talk. It was a group teaching Q&A, which is great because we're kind of going to be doing some of the same things today, but focusing very specifically on that conversion process, which we'll talk about in a moment, converting from one-on-one to group. Is it possible? How do you do it? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And I just wanted to say, Marie, thank you so much for being a long-time friend of Top Music. You've always championed what we've done and supported it. And so thank you.
Well, absolutely. It was like NCKP, I think, is when I first met you and literally changed the whole way I teach. Just realizing, we can be creative in piano and this can be fun. And so, and I know that sounds really sappy, but it really did change how I teach. So you and Leila and Bradley Forrest, it was a magical magical conference.
Yeah, it was. And look at you now running your third, I think, Group Illuminated conference.
Yes.
So
yeah.
you've doing amazing things, and we'll talk about that as well a little bit later. So and it was great. Of course, we got to catch up at MTNA just recently too. Always good to see you at these conferences. So
Yeah, you too. You're taller.
So let's talk. What's changed for you since 2016? We're talking 8 years ago now. Has your group teaching structure changed? What kind of things are you doing differently?
You know what? That's great. I know. I was actually grateful you asked that question. It's like, what has happened the last 8 years too? So, and yeah, I'm still group teaching, and honestly, I do love that we can continue to evolve our teaching as things. And sometimes it depends on students. Sometimes it's us, but I do love that we don't have to be stagnant. That's kind of exciting to change things up a little bit too. So I've tried to kind of move with that, with technology, of course, trying to bring in more technology with my group teaching. I honestly have gotten a lot more involved in MTNA, so that was fun that I got to see you.
Oh yeah, you're on the planning committee, aren't you? I think. No, is that right?
Not, you know what? But thanks. Yeah, I think that was legal. I got to do that. I am the state president for Nevada right now for a few more months, and then I got nominated to be the president of the president's chairs committee. Anyway, the chair of all the presidents, which landed me just a really cool position on the search committee. So when they were looking for the new CEO, Brian Shepard. So
that's what I saw. Yes, I remember.
That's what it was. Yeah. So it was a big learning opportunity that, I'm grateful for. That was just neat to be around those kind of people. So lots of MTNA work and trying to bring members in and make them feel, comfortable and included and have it to be a meaningful experience for them to connect with other teachers, kind of what you're doing. I keep wanting to call it the inner circle, and it's not, but anyway, top music. Let's see, 2016, I was going to take over the world, and I was going to be the biggest music school. And so I brought in a guitar teacher, drum teacher, a voice teacher, and we were just going to take over the planet with Musicality Schools. And then COVID hit, and that changed plans for a lot of us. I actually grew so big that I got to go into a commercial location, which was a different opportunity. I'm not doing that anymore. So I learned we had to scale back after COVID. The guitar and drum and voice teacher didn't want to teach online, but I was going to still go for it, like most everybody did. We just pivoted, and needless to say, I lost a few students. I lost some teachers. And I didn't want to keep paying commercial location fees. And so I went groveling back to the Steinway dealer, and they were happy to have me. They said, what do you need? We're remodeling. What do you need? Classroom. We'll give you pianos. They set me up too. So I am the lone teacher of Musicality Schools now. I learned I just like to teach. I like to lesson plan. And I don't necessarily do well at managing other people. So I'm enough to manage myself. So that's where I'm at. I'm glad I tried it. I won't say it's a fail. It's just you got to try something to know, do I like to have other teachers? Do I like to be in commercial space? Yeah, no, and it was a no. So I'm back to just teaching in this dealer store.
Well, good on you for, as you say, giving it a go. And I think while there's lots to be gained by growing big, it isn't for everybody. And because it just changes so much of what you do and can add so much stress. Unless you enjoy the game, it can really, that extra income that you might get may not be actually worth the extra stress that you have. So I wonder if now you feel actually a little bit calmer and more controlled and able to relax a little bit more, perhaps.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, I don't like finances. I don't like coming up with budgets. And it surprises people to this day. It's like, it costs money to have employees. It costs a lot of money. So there's just a lot of added things that you think it's I want to do this, and it's like it does open up a whole different area of business and I don't like that area. I just thought I'm just going to go back to teaching too.
Good on you. You've worked it out. So were you at the Steinway dealership before you got your commercial space?
I was, and that's when I was going to take over the world, and we got so big we couldn't fit in the store, and so we ended up being in a private school. I was renting space from private school in the Steinway dealer, and then the private school closed. And she said, you can't stay in there anymore. The new owner isn't going to let you stay. And that's when I had to find a commercial space in a month. And I felt bad because I do really love the Steinway dealer. They were great with me, and I hated to leave. but there wasn't space. So I did not leave willingly, but thankfully they took me back.
Well, yes, you left on good terms, obviously, which is great. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most common questions I get at the moment, and you probably hear, and everybody's asking, which is, how do I switch? I'm keen on the group thing. How do I make the switch? And is it even possible? And so we're going to answer that question shortly. But before we get there, I thought it's probably worth talking through some of the benefits that teachers can have from switching to a group model. What are your thoughts there?
I thought about this a lot because back when I first started, I really had to sell myself to my parents and students, and here are the benefits. And now we see those benefits. It's a popular thing, and now we just got to convince teachers that you can do this, or even though you didn't, grow up this way and you were taught privately, that this can be a viable option for the certain personalities if this fits your need and the needs and the goals of your students. So the pros I see are better retention. My retention is very, very good. I'm in the 90% percentile because students are with their friends, and it's like being on a dance team, a soccer team. They want to be with their friends. They don't want to give that one up. So retention is great because they have something to grasp onto that they love, that they don't want to get rid of. I had high school students, and I say, just keep coming, and they don't want to give it up. They don't want to practice. They don't have time to practice, but they don't want to give up their teams. These are their friends. They've been friends for 10 years. You as a teacher, this is one of the main reasons why I got into it. And again, a little sappy, but you can impact more lives. And we all of us teachers know the power of music. And is it cool that I can impact? I can do, one student, or it's like 2 students in an hour, or I could do 8. And this way I can spread the joy of music to more students and more families' lives too. So I just like being impactful. I think that's important. For all of us human beings to make a good impact on the world. More income. Now that does come with more work, but income definitely is higher because you're teaching more people in that hour. And it's fun. It's fun for the students, and it's fun for the teacher. And there's an energy in a group class. And any of you that have been, really go back to a band or a soccer team or a dance team, there is an energy then when you're doing things together as a group that you can't duplicate privately. And I'm not dissing private teachers because that's how I was taught. But private lessons, the few that I teach, are kind of boring. I don't really look forward to it like I do a group class. It's just a little boring. I mean, they're easier to teach. Yeah, there's an energy, and it's cool when people are in sync and playing together and learning together. That it feels good. It's a good feeling. Positive peer pressure. Kids usually in a group will practice better because they know they need to show up the next week to be able to play their song with the group.
They don't want to let their friends down.
They don't. And they, and they know that people are listening and watching, and they don't want to let their friends down. So it is literally being like on a piano team. Collaboration. Students are teaching and learning from each other, and they're kind of being leaders. That gives them a chance to be a leader. And use those skills, build those skills. And then I think I mentioned this before, but just the friendships that they build, because piano classes are literally their teams. And these are kids that they grow up and play with year after year, and they become deep friendships.
We should check in on actually what your studio looks like. So you're in Nevada. How many classes do you teach? And are they the same? I'm assuming they're the same age level, or are they the same ability level? How does it work?
I know there's a new thing with multi-level teaching, which is popular. I think it's great. I don't do that. I am same level, and I have about 140 students.
Now, it's same level by age level or by ability level?
Ability. So when they start with me, I have kind of a rough age group, like preschoolers, 5 to 6 year olds. So I just, within 2 or 3 years when they're starting. It's good to have the same age. And then as they advance, the more a child will practice, if they're more advanced, I can put a 6-year-old in with 8-year-old or 9-year-old. I've had, college students in with 12-year-olds because they're starting out too. So really it's their level. So it's how much work they want to put into it. Yeah.
But it's the social aspect would be stronger with the same or similar age students, I would imagine.
It is, but you do have that. I don't know how familiar you are with like the Montessori approach for there's Montessori schools, and it's different ages is teaching different ages and being the example. So an older student can be an example and a mentor to a younger one, and they can still be in the same class, but they're learning from each other. So I actually think that's a good thing too. I don't think a teenager should be like, oh, I'm too old for an 8-year-old. I can learn something from that. And if that 8-year-old can play as well as I can, then I better get to work, right? So,
Yeah, that's right.
so yeah, it is fun when they see each other in school too, ages. But
So, and you said you've got 140 students, mainly broken into 8 classes of 8?
8, I have room for 8. So I have 8 digital pianos. So yeah, I want to say, Tim, it's going to be like 25, 26 classes. I teach Monday through Thursday, 45-minute classes with a 5-minute break in between.
All right. That's a great model. And you mentioned more work. We should probably talk through, there's going to be some cons to changing, I guess. Why more work? And are there other cons potentially?
Yeah, it is more work because you've got to have a lesson plan. Just like
you can't just wing it.
Have to go in. You cannot wing it for 45 minutes. Even with a lesson plan, sometimes it's like I've got to, my lesson plan will have, here's what I need to accomplish. And then I always have about 4 or 5 if time, or if this doesn't go well, then I can jump into something else too. So I almost feel like group teaching sometimes is like a little magician pulling this trick out of their hat just to try and keep kids going. Or if something doesn't go a certain way, to be able to ready to switch. Or if something's really going really well, an improvisation activity, to give it a little bit more time and let the kids kind of guide that as well too. So yeah, you want to have lesson plans. Now the nice thing is if you're just getting started, get somebody's lesson plans that they've already written. Save yourself some time that way. And somebody that has put this together, Mayra and Cole, Dorla, Aparicio, you've got people that have already done that. Also, I'm thinking as lesson planning, I let me back up here just a little bit. I know I had a couple things and then I'm losing my train of thought here for just a second. Oh, so more work. Once you've done that lesson plan, and I've got my lesson plan in place, and because I'm teaching same level classes, then I save those in Google Docs, and then I can go back and pull from there too. So chances are, if there's a method book that you're using repeatedly year after year, then you will have taught that beginner lesson over and over and over again, and you can just tweak it to make it fit. So once the lesson planning is done for the first time, it's really easy to go back and tweak. But I will probably spend, for a 45-minute class, I'll spend anywhere from like 15 to 20 minutes per class lesson planning. So when you think about it, I'm making this much per hour. This don't include just your teaching hours, but also your preparation hours for lesson planning. So
you're also teaching far fewer hours. So you have more time than a one-on-one teacher would, right? To actually do that preparation.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Yeah, you do. Cons, here's another thing. For cons, a lot of it is what kind of student you're trying to attract and what their goals are. And if you've got a student that comes in that is wanting to compete, or they're wanting to major in piano performance, my group class is probably not the best place for you. We're serious in what we do, and you're going to learn the skills you're supposed to learn. But if you have somebody that is that serious and that wants to compete or major in music, they should probably be in with a private teacher. So I would suggest that. Students that don't practice, that's not a good fit for a group class. After you've worked with the parent and the student, if they're just not practicing, there's no way for them to keep up with the class. Point. Although it depends on if you've got a more recreational approach where it's just show up, once a week. And I don't know if School of Rock does that. There's a few places that do that where you just come in, jam for a little while, go home, and your music making is done. But that wouldn't be like a great fit for my studio. Behavior issues, if there's significant behavior issues, that's not a good fit for learning in a group. Yeah. And then I think we did talk about preparation time. Also, it requires more space. You've got to have space, and you've got to have
the equipment,
instruments. You got to have money, to do that. And there's ways of doing that cheaper, but there is a little bit of a setup cost that you have to be ready for, and space.
Yeah, and that also depends on the numbers. So I'm interested to get to a question about the structure of these things, because we don't necessarily, if we are one-on-one teachers, we don't necessarily have to go from 1 to 8. We could go from 1 to 4 or even 1 to 2, right? So can you talk us through some of those options?
I can, yeah. And it's kind of cool because there's a lot of teachers doing these options. So just what I talk about, there's not a one size fits all. Here's what I do, but here's what other people are doing. So what I'm doing is every student that comes into my studio is put into a group class. There are teachers that do, that are private teachers. And so they do weekly private lessons. And then maybe like the last week of the month, they have a group class, a monthly group class. And so there's that options. I knew a teacher, this is the coolest thing. I don't know how you make it work, but she did weekly group and weekly private. They came to her home twice a week to do that. Of course, more expense. I know. And I thought that would be the best of both worlds. But I've only known one teacher to do it. And these are like to students and parents, because they like piano is their thing and they're willing to show up and do, team ensemble playing and private playing as well, which means they've got to have the time to practice, 2 sets of material as well at home too. So yeah, that would be ideal if you had parents and students that were on board for that. We have teachers doing the 20-20-20 lessons, which is like 3 students rotating through an hour. So 20 minutes private, 20 minutes theory lab. And then I think 20 minutes is 3 of them doing a group activity. Summer only group classes. I know teachers that do this private lessons through the year. And then summer they have a theme and the kids come in and they do ensemble work all the way through the summer. You could jump into during your day hours, you could jump in and do maybe the group music at a preschool, private schools, public schools. Our public schools, that isn't something I can do, but I could go into a private school if they wanted a music program and do something that way. Some teachers, I guess it would be really fun and adds value to your studio is if you create an ensemble performance team, which is for your private students and it's invitation only, and you make it a really elite team. They have their matching t-shirts, they have their little tour that they go on, but that might be something that's really fun for retention, great for private students because they want to get to the level to play in that ensemble team. So I think we talked about this. I am same level. There are teachers doing multi-level teaching, which means that you can bring in different ages and different levels and showing up and playing the same piece. But you do have to have a set curriculum and pieces, of course, for that, because not all pieces are written that way. So Dorla's Piano Pyramid, Susan Staples Bell has some multi-level pieces. It does make it really easy for scheduling because people can just come in at any time and take their class. But you may have kids that practice, you may not. And that's one of those things you have to kind of let go a little bit of that because you're trying to anyway, you're playing the same piece, you got to have the same curriculum, and students are not as necessarily held to a standard of trying to stay with their team because they're all playing different pieces. Does that kind of make sense? A little bit. So, okay. Yeah. Anyway, that's how I've seen a lot of people are doing these. So a lot of different ways. So maybe your listeners, you're hearing something that resonates, jot it down.
Yeah, for sure. And it's good to know, as you mentioned earlier, that there are curricula that has been created already. So Mayron Cole, who I interviewed years ago, just before, in fact, she decided to give everything that she'd created over 30 or 40 years away. It's all there online for free. So there's one place to start. You've mentioned Dorla, who we'll put links to. Now, she came on a previous episode to talk about multi-age group classes and how they actually work, because I was fascinated. I couldn't comprehend quite in my mind how these worked. So we'll put a link in our show notes to that episode. And we've talked a number of times about the overlapping options, and 20-20-20 is only one of them. And Lynette Barney came on to share hers. I don't know, Marie, if you know what Lynette does, but it's really, we did a full case study on it because it's quite unusual structure, and she's changed it over the years. So when she first came on the podcast, she talked about it one way and she's changed. So all of this is to say you could start with a monthly group class and the rest is exactly as it is now, one-on-one. And that could evolve into 2 students at a time or an overlapping one. And then you could go to 4. You don't have to jump to any stage, and you can move between stages in some way. I mean, you don't obviously want to do it too often, but there is flexibility there.
Top Music Pro enables you to be a pro in your own studio because you don't have to reinvent the wheel and you don't have to make up all the answers yourself. You have support.
I think of Top Music as the pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. This site is the whole pot of gold, and there's gold pieces in there that I didn't even know existed.
I am actually teaching a full studio. They're coming online from miles away, so I am certainly thriving.
So what Tim has done is build a global community of piano teachers who are interested, who are engaged. And when you become part of this community, you feel empowered.
My life is different now because I'm not just in an isolated little studio. I have learnt that there are other people out there going through very similar learning curves and sharing these ideas.
I've really gained a lot of skill sets where my teaching is far more creative, far more innovative. I have resources so that I can add to it things that I didn't know.
My life and my business are different now because I have the three things that I really wanted: less stress, more money, and more time.
It's going to be fun. Like, I got excited about being a piano teacher. It's revolutionized everything that I do.
I think I've become a more thoughtful teacher, a more organized teacher. The quality of my teaching has deepened.
I feel like I can do this. I feel a sense of hope. I love the creativity it fosters and the openness to thinking outside the box, and it's energizing.
Joining Top Music really solidified that. Like, no, this is your career and you can make a career out of this. That has really helped me be proud of what I do.
It's made such a tremendous impact on the way I think about teaching. It keeps your mind open when you have so many ideas.
My best win from being on Top Music Pro is just having a lot more peace of mind as a teacher and as a business owner. It just gives me that less amount of hours that I have to do with research and everything.
It's a really good place to spend a few pounds, a few bucks a month. What you get from it far outweighs what you have to pay into it.
My biggest win with Top Music Pro was increased student retention and increased income. I have a lot more confidence in how I'm teaching, and I have the resources that I need when I do have questions.
I probably went from about 35 students to maybe like 65. I ended up doing 3 classes and I had a waiting list.
If I hadn't signed up with Top Music Pro, I probably wouldn't have realized that teaching piano is a real job and you can build your whole career around it.
So I guess the big question, Marie, is for those teachers listening who are doing one-on-one but are open to this and interested, how do you actually do the switch?
The switch. Okay. Well, Mayra Cole, and she is adorable, and her curriculum. That's what I started with because that was out there. And honestly, it's wonderful curriculum. The art is a little outdated, but the pieces, everything is just so well grounded. So that's a great place to start, and it's free, like you said. It's totally free. Mayra Cole would tell you. Keep your private students private, and anybody new that joins your studio, you start them in groups and just say, all new students coming in, we're now going to start you in group. Because most of the time they're beginners. Anyway, you're starting out beginners. Those are a lot of times the ones that are reaching out, although sometimes you do have transfer students. But she'd say it's tricky to take a private student and move them into group. Now, I did that. My story, 20 years ago.
Tell us that.
I did that. I just said, I had a piano mom come in and she's like, my sister is doing this really cool group piano thing in Idaho. You should check this out. And it was Mayra Cole. And I checked it out and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I had a waiting list in Las Vegas, we don't have enough music teachers for how many students are interested, and it's still that way. So come to Vegas. I will find you students.
Go to Las Vegas.
Go to Las Vegas. We got, on all instruments. It's not just piano. But I checked it out and I thought, this is so cool. I got to try this out. So what I did was I kept my students privately, but the last week of each month, we just did a group class, and it was more like a performance class, theory games. And I just first of all, I wanted to find out, is this a good fit for me? Do I enjoy doing this? Is this fun? And then get the students engaged and to kind of know what it means to learn as a group and for the parents to do that. So we probably did that for maybe 6 months. And then timing kind of worked out. We moved into a new home that had space where I could actually, it was my dining room and I could turn it into a group studio. And I told everybody, this is what we're doing. We've been doing this for 6 months. We're going to take this and we're going to do this every week. And 20 years ago, that was not cool at all. And parents were like, no, we only do private. There's no such thing as group. People weren't doing group. And I lost about 40% of my students, which was like so hard to take. But I believed in what I was doing, although I cried 1,000 tears, and we just kept at it. And within another 6 months, I was back up. I was like almost to 90 students. So like I said, I had room to bring in these kids. Otherwise, they would have sat on a waiting list and they would have never gotten in to a piano lesson. I mean, there's just no way, you know, once kids get in, you don't have a lot of spots open up to. So there I was able to impact more students and bring them in. But yeah, I choked for the first little bit because I lost that. You're not going to have teachers listening. This is not going to happen nowadays. This is more accepted. Group learning is way more accepted too. But yeah, that's how I did that, is I tried to just get people used to the idea of what it is to learn in a group before I said, here's what we're doing. This is where I'm going. Here's all the benefits. Here's how I see it working. And for some of those who are on the fence, I was like, just give me 3 months to prove myself. I can do this. We can do this. Give me a few months to prove myself. But yeah, you need to sell those benefits, and you've got to believe in them yourself too. So maybe it is a good idea to test it out yourself and see, do I like group? I mean, maybe you already know too. And I kind of knew just by reading. So I started reading through Mayer and Cole, and it's like, this is cool. I need to do this. This is where I need to go.
So what I'm hearing is the ideal would be to say, okay, we've got new beginners that are starting to show interest in coming to my studio. Rather than just start them as you would normally, just say, hang on a second. And when you have, let's say 4, then you go, aha, all right, we're going to put you guys all in a group. And that's my first group. Yeah. And that's how you go about it. So I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the selling it, because I think that is important, particularly if other teachers out there listening want to do the conversion style and say, I actually believe that this is a better educational structure for my students, and we're all going to be doing groups starting next year or whatever it is. What are some of those points that you use to sell that to parents?
Those points, and we are sharing a handout. I'll be sharing a handout that has these points.
Oh, fantastic.
Too, because this is like stuff that you can put on your website if you decide that I'm going group, and so there's material in there that you want to, of course, put it in your own words, please, but put it on for marketing, but to be able to get in your head and be able to say it and believe it as you're speaking it out to. But like those pros that we talk to, and I think one of the biggest ones is that parents just want to see their kids having fun. And I know you've mentioned this before, Tim, and a lot of things that you talk about. But if parents see that their kids are enjoying piano, they don't care so much how or why or it's happening, but my child's having fun. My child's learning to play. I can hear them playing. They enjoy going to classes. They're happy when they come out of classes. And I think that's the biggest selling point. So if you can let parents physically see their kids having fun, bring them in the class, and they're having such a good time, that parents will be sold. We just want our kids to be happy, right, Tim? So that's a big part of that too. Seeing, of course, bringing in parents for performances too, when they can see that their child, playing with the group, that they're able to follow that group. And Mayer and Cole would call that the village musicians, because we're training people to play in bands. If you can play with other people, you're accompanying. So these are kids that could play in a jazz band. They could accompany a vocalist, another instrument, chamber music. You're learning those skills as well. And those are learned skills. I didn't learn that till I was in middle school and got nominated, whatever, to play in the choir. And it's like, oh, I have to follow a conductor. And I had no idea.
I've got to keep in time.
Somebody else, that somebody else could be in charge. So, yeah. So one thing I try, and because I do want parents to see that right from the get-go. My website can speak this and this and this, but until I get them in the studio having fun and their parents seeing that, and then I really haven't sold them then. So I take Mayer Cole. She has it's called Blast Off with Piano. It might be labeled her summer program. Anyway, basically it's a 5-week course, and it's just keyboard geography and rhythms. And it has lesson plans, and it has all the cute little duets. And so teachers, if you're trying to start group and you're trying to get a nice group of, like you said, 4 to come in and start at the same time, I've offered these little Blast Off with Piano courses. Summer's a great time to do that. Mayer Cole said you can do it 5 days in a row. And that's kind of cool, because on day 5, the parents come in and you do a little recital, and the parents go, whoa, my kid just learned that in 4 days. And we all know teacher duets that sound really pretty make kids sound amazing, even if they're tapping on a C key. So that the parents pull out their phones and they're videoing their kids, and it's a magical time. And they sign up right there. 99% of the time, if I can get them in the studio and they can see their kids playing and having a good time and being able to actually play something and filling in with, with the teacher duet that fills in there, that speaks volumes. And if I can just get them in the door, almost every time they'll sign up. So I would just encourage parents, you can do a lot of talking, but get them in even if it's a free class. And I'm all for first class free. I know people don't agree with that, but if I can get them in the first time, I know I've hooked them. So I'm willing to do a first class free.
So what I'm hearing is that rather than just, if you did want to convert some of your students to group or all of them, rather than going to parents, here are all the benefits and we're starting next year, don't do that. Start doing some group things, bringing students together in groups and invite the parents along at the end so that they can see why you're doing this and what the goal is. That makes so much sense. And that's a great way to dip your toe in the water as a teacher of the group format too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That actually kills two birds.
It does. It's good for you. You need to know, okay, what structure works for me? Ooh, I don't want to say I don't like this age, but I'm better with this age. I should probably start with this age first, because you need to be confident too in your abilities. And you can sit there in the back of your head and go, I don't teach group. I'm not a group teacher. It's like, you are a group teacher. And these parents don't know what a group teacher is. So you be the group teacher and teach the group. And they don't know any better. So yeah, a lot of it's just a mind game. We need to convince ourselves that we can do that. And then they'll believe us. We just, but sometimes that is putting on a happy face. It's like, I'm just going in, I'm going to go for this.
So tell us about the handout that you've got. You've mentioned a couple of things on there. What else will teachers get?
It's 5. I should have written this. It's like 5 reasons why group classes are so beneficial for kids. And it does talk about, of course, the social aspect, learning musical skills. We talked about, being the village musician and being able to play along with somebody, accompany somebody else. The confidence that is built into a group class, I think, is one of the biggest selling points. When I was a private teacher, it was not uncommon to have somebody at recitals throwing up in the bathroom because they were so nervous. And I just could not bear it, because that's a scary thing. Recitals are scary. And sometimes I go, why do we put ourselves through this? But they feel so great when they're finished. And it's an awesome thing. Well, in a group class, the very first day, you're playing in front of other people. You have to get used to just being in front of people. And so my students, I don't want to say that they don't get nervous, because they do. We all make a few little mistakes, but they're comfortable from day one playing in front of each other. And so when you just put them in front of an audience, it's like, oh, it's a few more people. I can do this. I've already done this plenty in class. And confidence, we talked about this because you've got teenagers. We need kids with as much confidence in this crazy world. And it's not just musical confidence, but confidence being a leader, confidence standing up for, what you believe in, or confidence for sticking up for somebody else, but presenting yourself, getting a job interview, or applying for a scholarship, or these kind of things. This confidence goes everywhere. It's not just music. We want confident kids that believe in themselves, and they've learned that by being in their group class and putting themselves out there.
You've made me think of another question, which is, what do your recitals look like? Do you get 8 pianos on a stage? How does that work?
We do. We just finished one. Yeah, so Saturday, I know I've been waiting 6 years to do this, Tim. So it was May the 4th. So it was May the 4th be with you. It was a Star Wars themed recital we did on Saturday. And I wish I had room for 8 pianos. So we have it. The Steinway dealer has a beautiful concert hall that they let me use free of charge. And so there's a 9-foot Steinway that the kids rotate through, which is really beautiful. And then I bring in 4 digital pianos from my classroom that we hook those up to. And so I have 5 pianos on a stage. And and the kids are most of the time, depending on the size of the group, probably 2 kids per piano. So there could be 10 kids up on stage at once. And it's a little bit of It's a madhouse, and it's crazy. It's fun. It's fun. I've got my teenagers, some teens helping out on the side, lining kids up. But yeah, when you see their videos and they're just smiling, and it's like, those are not the feelings I had at any one of my recitals ever.
No, that's right. Well, look, I really want to talk as well about Group Illuminated. So if you've enjoyed hanging out, as I have just now, with Marie, because she's awesome, you get to hang out more with Marie because she's putting together a conference. So tell us about Group Illuminated.
Group Illuminated is the only, so far as I know, the only group teaching conference for group teachers. And we happen to be online, so it's on demand. So it starts June 1st. We have 2 access options. So you've got June, July, 2 months, or you can go a full 6 months. So basically watch the sessions as much or as little as you want. Go right to the sessions that you really need. Ignore the rest. But we have some amazing presenters. So it's really like
it's a who's who. Yeah.
It's a good list this year.
It's really impressive. I couldn't think of anyone who you haven't got who I would get.
Yeah, so 2025. Yeah.
So tell us about some of those names and what they're talking about.
Yeah, some of those I know. I didn't want to leave anybody, but Chris Fisher, if you have done any research on group teaching, he has written the book. Group teaching book that we're all pretty familiar with. But Dr. Chris Fisher is coming on as our keynote. We have Dora Labricio. She's been on, I think this is her 3rd year. Melanie Bowes, she's been here too. There's a few of us that have been here a few times. Bradley Sowash is coming up. But Bradley and Leila are doing we're calling it the night before conference, like night before Christmas. But anyway, May 31st, they're doing a live event where teachers were hopefully are going to join at their pianos. And you know what Bradley and Leila do, tons of cool things with lead sheets and creativity. And so they'll be there as well.
And Bradley has a really interesting model as well of group teaching. It's quite different because he teaches adults. And I think he's actually talking about that model, isn't he?
You know what he taught last year? That was more his session last year, and he's mostly online too. So he did some online
it's all
teaching.
Online.
Yeah. This year, let me tell you, he's got it written down here. He's going further with lead sheets. So what beginners and intermediates can do with lead sheets. And you're right. That's important to know that Bradley teaches groups. That's what he
adult
teaches.
Groups online, and he does it really well. Yeah. So I'm sure can participants ask questions?
Yes, during the live sessions. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So they can do that too. And that, I know I don't want to deviate from this, but I will a little bit. But some cool thing that we do because there is a magic, that of being an MTNA, of just seeing your people and connecting with them. And so we have, we call them illumination stations, and we have 4 events during June and July where people can get on, and we have teachers submit their questions. Here's what I need help with. And then we give them 10 minutes in the hot seat, and they ask their question, and we've got presenters online and anybody else that wants to join, but they just start throwing out, here's what I do here, and share. And people come, a lot of people say that is their favorite part of the conference, is actually the live events, where we get together and talk. Okay, what are you really needing as a group teacher? Where are you really hurting, or where do you need? It's just we finally build a lot of confidence, and it makes people feel like, oh, I'm not alone in this. There are all these group teachers around the world doing the same thing I'm doing, and they're doing it differently, and they're doing it well. But just to get their idea, so that's a cool thing to do. But we have tried this year a little bit more to. Of course, we want all the great techniques of teaching group, but we've also we've got Sarah Campbell coming on because she's amazing with marketing. Because that's a big. We've talked about that. Yeah, it's like you got to get the kids in the door first, so you can actually teach these group classes too. So we have a few sessions on technology in groups, and some of the marketing, and we've got Diana Cummings talking about teens and adults, if that's who you like to teach is that age. Neurodivergent, we've got a session on that. Rosemary Penner's doing that one too. I'm just looking through my list. Rebecca Trevelise and Amanda Taro, their game club, so theory games and music classes. I'm gonna leave people off, and I don't want to do that. Caroline Fauché, you met her from France. She's got a really cool method. Listen to this. So we talked about having to have lots of instruments in a class. She has 3 students on one piano. She's like, get them started, and all you need is one piano and 3 kids on a piano. So she's got a cool course.
That's cool.
She's sharing that as well too. So Dorla's speaking on mindset. I probably left somebody off.
No, that's okay. I mean, there's over 20 of them. So, look,
this is the biggest year.
Yeah. This is congratulations, by the way, of how this has grown, and it's now really got a name for itself. So, I'm really excited to be able to support you and help encourage people to join. So, anyone listening here, if you would like to get your seat, it's over at groupilluminated.com, and you can use my coupon code TIM50, TIM50, for $50 off your registration, which is pretty sweet. So thank you, Marie, for offering that. We'll have your cheat sheet or your download over on our show notes page, which will be at topmusic.co/episode 366. Anything else we should add before we wrap things up, Marie? Anything we missed?
Gosh, we covered quite a bit, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, it was like bang, 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 bang. People can go back and listen again.
Yeah, hopefully too. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go back to just really mindset. If you believe in this and you know this is something you want to do, you've got to jump head first, and you got to really believe in it yourself and sell it to yourself first before you feel like you can sell it to others too. But you can do this. It's just finding the right mix for how it works best for you. And what are your goals? I mean, what are my goals for my students? Does this meet my goals? How would I need to change group to make it meet those goals? Maybe a group doesn't meet your goals. Maybe I just want these really cool ensemble teams and that's enough. And then I can keep my private students. But I think there's a place for all of our piano students to enjoy the benefits of group. How does it fit in your studio? That's a good place to, start looking, discover that. And some form is going to benefit your kids no matter what. If it's a little bit, a lot of it. But it does we make better musicians, we make better human beings with a little bit of group learning. So.
I love it. I think that's a great place to finish. Marie, thank you so much for joining us again today.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate your support.
You're welcome. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Marie. I just can't help but to want to shift over to group teaching. Every time I speak to her, she just gives you that kind of buzz, doesn't she? She's so happy to share and excited about this and sharing it with other teachers. So I do hope you felt the same thing. Do make sure you go over and grab your ticket for Group Illuminated. It's at groupilluminated.com and use my code TIM50 to get that discount. And I just went inside Top Music Pro, our membership, and I searched for the subject of group teaching. There's 44 different resources, and I wanted to let you know a few of them. So we've got this webinar about how to teach any method in a group format. That's with Mindy Rawlinson and Marie Lee, who was on today's show. We've got Group Lessons 101 with Sarah Campbell and Tracy Selly. We've got Group Teaching Q&A. We've also got an amazing course on the business of group teaching. So that's all talking about more the money and structure side of group teaching, but also from Deborah Perez, the process of growing a group teaching studio. And that's where we talk about the pedagogy as well as the finance and structure of group teaching. We've also got information about the power of keyboard ensembles. So this is information that can be valuable to you if you just want to, as Marie suggested, run group programs on weekends or just one a month. What do you do during those sessions? Or you can check out some of the keyboard ensemble information we have. And then we have some of our expert coaching group calls from our mastermind sessions inside the membership. We've got lots of live event videos where we're actually teaching in groups. We're teaching other teachers in a group format. We've got videos of teachers teaching students in a group format. You name it, we can support you. If this is something that you're interested in doing, then make sure you go and have a look inside the Top Music Pro Academy. Oh, and we also have a hugely popular course. It's called Make More, Teach Less with Pairs, Buddies and Labs. This course was created by Nicola Canton for us, and you can also get a taste of that course by having a look at the webinar that we've got. It's called Innovative Lesson Formats, and this really covers so many of those things that Marie was talking about, those structures where it is multiple students at a time, but perhaps not for a whole lesson. Maybe they're overlapping, they're coming in and out. What are they doing? How does it all work? That is the course that you need to check out. So if you're interested in joining us, you can watch any of the webinars where we've talked about these group classes and the group courses by grabbing a light membership. That's over at topmusicpro.com. Choose the light membership. That's just $10 a month, and that gets you access to our back catalogue of webinars. There's about 80 of them. I can't believe I've done that many, including every one of these topics. So that gives you a taste. It gives you an hour-long training on one of these topics. And if you want to dive more deeply in, then grab our studio level membership. That's at topmusicpro.com as well. Thanks so much for joining me on the show today. I do hope it was of value to you, and I can't wait to catch up with you again next time. I'm Tim Topham, and you've been listening to the TopCast. I'll speak to you again next week. How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today. If you enjoy this show and want to hear more of our work, be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening today. For links and resources mentioned in this episode, visit us at topmusic.co/podcast or check out the show notes. I'm Tim Topham. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy your week ahead, and I'll catch you next time.